I've been sending a bunch of query letters tonight, but I think I have to stop because I no longer have the use of my hand anymore. Welcome to another querying video. So if you're new here, my name is Josie, and I'm currently attempting to query literary agents with my Mountaineering Revenge thriller novel. I'm calling it like a psychological thriller in my query letters, and we are just over 6 months in. I have one other video before this of me sending out my first, I think it was like 30 queries. I started out really slow though, so a vast majority of them are still, I'm waiting on a response, but you haven't really missed too much. And I still don't really have any good news. Like, we're still waiting, hopefully, for a first full request. But I did send out a bunch of query letters in the last week because I've promised myself that I'm not going to stop querying until I hit 100 queries sent. So until I've reached out to 100 literary agents. And that's a huge number. And I've actually seen online some like discourse about 100 being too many, and are there really 100 quality agents? In all honesty, I think it depends on the genre you're writing in. Like, if you're writing in a really niche genre, there might not be that many agents for it. There are so many literary agents who have thriller as one of their many categories that they're interested in, as well as mystery, suspense, romance, contemporary fantasy, which is both a good thing and a bad thing because it means that I have a lot of people that I can reach out to. But in the same vein, because they're interested in so many things, I don't know if they're interested in a thriller, and if they are interested in a thriller, are they interested in the thriller that I wrote about? Because I feel like there's so many different subgenres in thriller that it's just hard to know if the rejections I'm getting are because of like my query letter synopsis or first pages of my book are not up to par, or if it's just that I haven't clicked with any of the agents that I've applied to, which is why I get so excited when I see like a manuscript wish list, which is basically like a list online of the things that an agent is looking for. And they're specifically targeting the thriller, mystery, suspense categories because I'm like, oh, you're actually interested in my genre specifically. You're not also interested in fantasy and romance and all these other things. Even though nothing really interesting has happened, I feel like I've had a shift like mentally in the last week, and I don't even know like what triggered it. Well, I kind of know. I was feeling unsatisfied with the query letter that I had originally. So I started out with one query letter, and then about 3 months in, after I didn't really get any interest from my first batch of 10 queries, I decided to rewrite my query letter. And then of the like 10 form rejections I received, two of them had a little bit of personalization that gave me a hint as to why they rejected. So one person said they really enjoyed the query letter, but then when they got to the pages of my book, it wasn't really what they wanted. And then another person, I immediately seek out the like, I'm sorry, we're passing line. And then I kind of don't really read too much more unless, I have the mental capacity at that moment to do it. So I was revisiting some of the rejections I got, and that's when I saw this. The agent had said basically that they didn't think that the query letter was strong enough. Maybe the stakes weren't as clear, or I could have been more clear about like the progression of events that happened throughout the story. And maybe I'm saying in too like loose terms. So I decided I need to revisit my query letter because even though that first person was like, actually, the pages weren't that great, I feel like the issue instead is that my query letter didn't reflect enough of what was in the pages. If this one person was turned off by my initial pages because my query letter said something different, then it makes me worried that people that would be interested in my pages aren't getting to them because my query letter isn't leading them into it enough, isn't hinting enough at exactly what the product is that I'm trying to sell them. So I reworked that quite a bit. And then that just made me want to submit it to a lot of other literary agents because I was so excited, like reading it. I was getting hyped up. I was like, yeah, this is such an awesome book. I was reading it to my fiance and my mom, and I was like, oh, look how amazing this is. Like, don't you want to reread this right now? So I was just getting really excited. So I sent out another huge batch. So we are currently at 50 query letters sent. So we're halfway to my 100 query letter goal. So I think this is the moment where I just step back, stop sending them out, try and live my life, because honestly, my mind's been so scattered in the last week. I haven't even done any writing on my current project. I haven't been able to like stop thinking about this in the back of my head at all times. So I really just need to like move on with my life and put all the querying to rest until I start to get some more feedback. I just woke up to my first full request. I am so excited. Like, even if this goes no further, this gets rejected, I get no other full requests. Like, at least I know my query letter and pages worked for one person, and that feels amazing that someone, a literary agent, is actually interested in what I came up with, even from just like the limited stuff I sent them. So I'm going to try and enjoy it. I'm also going to look in a little bit on my computer just to see where I'm at, because I've had so many rejections at this point that I'm interested in knowing how many form rejections I've had before this full request. I'm also going to have to prepare the document to send as well, because I do have a completed manuscript, don't get me wrong, but I don't have it probably in the right like formatting and, text, uh, you know, Times New Roman and spacing and numbered pages. So I have to figure that out as well this morning. I just can't believe it. I'm just submitting my documents now. Oh, this is so nerve-wracking. Okay, I did it. My book's out there in the world. Yeah, I don't even know how to feel. Like, in part, I'm just so excited for this, right? Like, this is my opportunity. This is what my query letter was for, was to just try and get someone to read my book, because I just feel like so good about the story. Like, if I can convince you that the plot is something you're interested in. I'm also a little happy because I didn't edit my first chapters that I'd sent this agent, like, or I sent any agent. Like, I didn't really edit them too intensely. So what they saw in those first pages are pretty reflective of the quality of the entire book. Of course, there are probably some grammatical errors further in. I just struggle to like see some grammatical errors sometimes because my mind just like skips over it. And I've had people read this book, so they've also caught things, but yeah, it's finally happening. So I want to give you some of the information. So I counted, and before I got this request, I have received 12 form rejections. So 12 other literary agents have passed, but I also had what I'm counting as 10 no responses. So closed no responses is usually what people refer to it as, where like enough time has passed that if you don't hear anything in that amount of time, you can assume it's a rejection. So technically, this is my 23rd response in that sense. Like, I've received 22 either form rejections or so much time has passed that I can assume it's a rejection, just to show that it has been a while. Like, this is nowhere close to the beginning of the querying journey. It's almost been 7 months since I started querying. And also, this agent responded. I sent them the query letter 4 days ago. So this is actually one of the later queries that I've sent out. And I've currently sent out 53. And it was the 47th query letter that got me the full request. So hopefully they like the story. But yeah, I'm just so happy that I at least got one full request. I was feeling kind of dejected at getting absolutely nothing. But here's for this person, hopefully enjoying this book. It could take, like, I think they say on their website, up to 4 months to hear back. So we're talking, it's March now, so I might not hear till like middle end of summer, which is totally fine. I'm just happy that one person wants to read it. The worst possible, well, okay, not the worst possible thing could have happened, but it is the following day after I sent in my full, and I had this nagging feeling. So I went in and Control found one of the naming inconsistencies. I was like, one of the last things I changed before calling it good on the version of the manuscript that I was happy with. And it turns out I sent in a slightly older version. Oh, I felt so horrible. And I've now sent in the correct version. It's all on Query Tracker. And I put in a quick, like, apology of, like, sorry, I sent an older one. Here's the correct one. Thanks for understanding. And I have a feeling it's gonna be okay, because, like, a literary agent is, like, a person, and I'm sure they understand that mistakes happen. But it just sucks because this is, like, the first time they're interacting with me, so it feels so unprofessional to have sent in the wrong thing. So I was like feeling so good, and today I'm feeling so upset. So if I get a rejection from this, I hope it's not because of this mistake. It has been almost a week that a literary agent has my full manuscript in their inbox. It's crazy even now just to like say that. I keep feeling like I made a mistake, like it didn't actually happen, and then I'll like go back to the email and be like, "Oh yeah, no, they actually wanted to see it." And I'm so nervous to hear the answer, but more than anything, I'm more nervous they're just going to ghost me and I'm like never going to hear from them at all and wonder, did they read it? Did they hate it? Did they just miss it and forget about it and it just kind of sank to the bottom of their inbox and disappeared forever? I don't know. I've sent out a couple more query letters since then because getting a full request has made me a lot more confident in my query package. So I've revamped it twice in this process. So this is a third version. So it makes me feel like the third version is better. Unfortunately, like I think it's just over half of the ones that are sent out are with my second version, but the second and third version are still pretty similar, so I'm not too upset about that. I've looked back at the first version that I sent to those first 10 agents. I don't think it was really up to par. Like looking back at it now, I'm like, I did so much better with these later ones. It almost makes me regret sending it to them and losing out on that opportunity, except for the fact that if you watch the previous video, the first rejection I got, the agent said to send them my next project. And I don't know if that's said to just everyone or if she sees like a higher quality package, maybe she'll say that. Either way, I'm being delusional. I'm taking it as she thinks I'm great, but the concept's not quite for her, whatever. So I need to send her another one. So because I didn't want to go full steam ahead, just sending a bunch more queries of the mountaineering thriller, because I do need to start having some patience and waiting for replies. I decided to focus my energy into perfecting a query letter to send that first agent of one of my earlier projects. So of the 5 that I have this submarine thriller that I've decided and I did send the query letter for. That's like a bit more adventure focused. It's not quite as like morally gray. It's kind of just a good time. We're under the ocean and it's trapped in a submarine. They did respond to my first query letter and they actually just reopened like less than a month ago. So it feels like they're like a pretty active agent. So I'm sure I'm going to hear something back, whether or not it's another rejection or whatever. So who knows? Maybe I get signed to an agent that has nothing to do with the book that I originally queried. It's been about a month that I received that first and only full request, and nothing has really happened in the time between then and now. And it kind of dawned on me that I don't think I'm planning on changing my query letter or the first pages. Like I've rewritten the query letter now 3 times. And I feel like this last iteration, it's what got me that full request, is as good as I can really make it. I'm not really going to be able to make it any better. Maybe I'll be able to make it different, but not better. So I've gone ahead and decided, you know what? I should just send out a bunch of query letters, get them out into people's queues, and just see what happens. And that way, hopefully, I can also stop thinking about the querying process so much because there's nothing I have to actively do. But that was easier said than done because then I had to figure out which literary agents I wanted to query. Because at the beginning of this whole process, when I was like prepping all of my materials, I made a literary agent list. But on that list, I maybe had like the first dozen agents I wanted to reach out to. And then I very quickly went through that list, at which point I then was basically just like looking up an agent, seeing if they matched like what my book is about, whether they'd be interested, and I just send it right then and there. And actually, for the most part, I didn't research specific agents like to find them. I instead made a list of reputable agencies and then looked at all the agents at the agency to decide which one was the best one to query. So I kind of went a little bit of a roundabout way to get to the agent. Some of these agencies have rules like you can only query one agent at the agency, and if they say no, it's a no from everyone. Whereas other ones, you can query multiple, but one at a time. Like you have to wait for a rejection from one before you can go to another. So I've also been keeping track of that. Like when I get a form rejection, I'll go in and see, does that agency allow me to submit to someone else? But since I was in the like 50-ish queries sent, I was starting to slow down because I'd really only been focusing on Canadian and US agents. Because as a Canadian, I really want to try and get a Canadian agent if I could. So part of that first batch that I sent out initially, the first 10, quite a few of those were Canadian agents, which was maybe not a good choice for the first batch because a lot of agencies in Canada are the close no reply kind of places. Like they don't give you a form rejection, which meant I was waiting quite a long time to hear back from them. But then from there, I've mostly been querying US agents. So I decided to venture into UK agencies. And it was really interesting because there are differences between UK and I'm going to group them as like North American agencies, because UK agencies are a lot more likely to want email queries or even like forms like on their website, versus US agents do a lot of query tracker. So as well, like where I was just like researching stuff was very, I guess, North American centric. So that's why I was finding so many more North American agencies than I was UK. But another difference is a lot of UK agencies want to know if you've got a full request out. So in the US, they don't care. They just want to know if you have an offer of representation. But in the UK, I guess they want to have a little bit of a warning, a little bit of a leg up in case you get an offer. So they want to know if you have a request. So it's been nice. So I've been able to put into my query that I do have one full request out for my novel. So that has brought us up to the crazy total of 78 queries sent. So that brings us to 32 queries away from my goal of 100. So I set out with the ambition of send 100 query letters out before I can quit. But I have to say, I think I am slowing down. Like, I just don't know if I'll be able to find 100 good agents to query. There are a few agents that I have to wait like another month before they're open to queries. So I know I want to query them. But 32 is still a ton of queries to have to send out. I know that I'll probably be able to requery some agencies, so that'll help add to the number. And then there's also the possibility of me going for slightly different agents. So instead of going just for thriller, I might be able to sell it a little bit upmarket. So I'm being able to target more agents if I'm willing to go that route. I just don't know. Am I willing to query 30 more agents just to say I got to 100 if I don't think they're a good fit? Not really. Am I willing to query like 5 agents that are, a little bit of a stretch just to get to 100? Maybe. At that point, I feel like the completionist in me is like, why not throw my hat into the ring and see what happens? Of the 78 queries that I have sent, I officially have 28 rejections, or form rejections, as well as close no reply rejections. And then I just have the one full request. So at this point, it's kind of a waiting game. Getting that one full request was a really nice boost of confidence. And whether or not it ends up with a yes or a no from that agent, I feel like it has validated me in a way of like, yeah, I can write a query letter. Yeah, my opening pages are enticing enough to get someone to read. So we will just keep waiting.